Member of the PCF party here in Le Havre. When did you become a member of this group?
I joined the PCF when I arrived in Le Havre, maybe a few months before. I knew it was a former communist town, and I knew that the PCF was strong. So when I arrived, I had a look at how they worked, and after some time, I just received papers of them in my mailbox, and I decided, yeah, okay, let's knock on the door and join them.
Okay. So can you explain the activities that you participate in Le Havre?
I participate in about 1 or 2 activities a week, usually. Some of them are dispensing flyers in town, so it can be like these ones. It can be in marketplaces. It can be the entrance and exits of universities. It can be so in any place where there are people coming. A big part of the job is also to put flyers in the mailboxes. So every activist has one sector, and when there's a new flyer, we need to put these flyers in the mailboxes everywhere in the neighborhood. So it may mean that we have to wait 10 minutes for people to open the door to access the mailboxes. A big part also is going directly knocking at people's door. So there are usually cités where we know that people appreciate us, but they don't vote for us. They don't vote anyway. And sometimes there's only 30% of the people that go to vote. In Le Havre, in certain places. So we go in these places, in this city, and we go and knock at every door, so people know that we actually care about what they do. We try, if there are some similar things that they say, we mark them and give them to the other people in the party responsible for the program, and we defend our program by discussing with people. The last thing I do is mostly because I'm a bit familiar with it. Is the social media part, where I make. If you go to the PCF Love page, a big part of the visuals you'll see. I made them with a few other people. We have 3 in total, I think, to do it.
So young people more?
Yes, more people. Okay. Young people. They're more familiar with it.
Okay. So the municipal elections are coming up soon in Le Havre, so the 15th and 22nd of March. So what are the stakes of this election, and what do the PCF adherents feel they have to lose in this election?
Edouard Philippe usually likes saying that Le Havre is a left-wing city that votes right-wing, because sociologically there are still many parts of Le Havre that should vote left, and in national elections, Le Havre still votes left. Mélenchon did a bit less than 30% on the first round of the presidential election, and the second one was Macron with 21%. So it's still a town that normally votes left-wing. But there are some personalities. Formerly it was Antoine Rouffenac who took the city from the communists, and then Edouard Philippe. So there are people that are judged as competent. People appreciate them. They have a lot of charisma.
So it's more about charisma than about what they present, you feel. Okay.
In Le Havre, all the mayors, at least since the communists got to power, so Colliard and Duroméa, the 2 communists, and then Rouffenac and Edouard Philippe, were very popular and very charismatic people. So yes, there were this idea of personalities. But now something has changed. We have a mayor that had many problems with the way he led the city, especially with the budget. We're in a terrible crisis in Le Havre because he misled the project, and also because people are starting to see that in the neighborhoods, so not in the center, in the neighborhoods, it's much harder to live, and they are getting less connected to the center than before. They have less things, so things are getting into the center, but they don't have ways to go in the center easily. So there's all that, the fact that the Prime Minister is the former mayor, so there's this assimilation. And for the first time since the end of the communist era, we really feel that there's a chance. We're still not, Philippe has more chance of winning than losing, of course, but we have a chance, quite a legitimate chance, to win this election. Okay.
So the city of Le Havre was called before Stalingrad-sur-Mer, so because of its communist past and the austere architecture, but the austere architecture has changed since. But it was a long time like the bastion of the French communists, and who ruled the city from 1965 to 1995. So why is Le Havre such like a cluster of communists and has so much communist tendencies? Why do you feel it is?
Le Havre was a big place of the resistance during the Second World War. Colliard and Urumia, so the two communist mayors we had, were both resistance. These resistance groups were mostly based on the structure of the Communist Party. So when they were when they became illegal in 1939, so before the war was lost, the structure went underground, so more discreet, and based on that, resistance group were created. This made it, as a consequence, at the end of the war, the communists were seen as extremely talented people in the organization because they were able to manage an organization one of the strongest in France against the Nazis. They probably would be able to run a town. So they had a lot of credibility, and it was Duromea said that Le Havre was a place where the working class was reassembled, and naturally, is the word he used. Naturally, they se sont dotés. They got a communist mayor to administrate the life. So, at least in the communist thinking, it was normal for the working class that could trust the communists to get the communists to administrate their life. And if you talk to old people in Europe, they will usually talk about the cliques, which was a center for culture and sports with a lot of subsidies from the town, and it really affected the life. The life of the working class in Le Havre was very, very affected by this 30-year period.
So here's a track from Jean-Paul Lecoq, so representative of the PCF in these elections that are coming up, and he develops a lot talking about the urgency of the situation. So urgence écologique, urgence sociale, and urgence démocratique. Do you think that this feeling of urgency from the Communist from the Communist Party comes from the fact that there was a present monopoly of the UMP at the mayor's seat, and that they feel that now their interests have not been represented since the last years, that they have to take back the city of Le Havre in place, and for example, build back again these centers like the clubs you were talking about that do not exist anymore. So do you think this feeling of urgency comes from the fact that past mayors have been from the UMP and not the communist mayors?
I go even further. These three urgencies are not only in Le Havre. They are present in many French towns, and they simply answer to a certain analysis of the present situation. If you take the Gilets jaunes movement, there was a real demand for democratic measures. So then all the left-wing parties had to find an answer to really be ambitious and not just say, yeah, we're going to build some council. No, they had to build concrete and quite radical democratic measures. So then democracy became an emergency, not just something that was a bit flawed. Same for the social emergencies. There have been social movements, several social movements every year in France for now the last few years, which is quite exhausting, by the way. So, of course, it's an emergency, but it's not very new. And the ecological emergency. The left wing, and Mélenchon did a lot for that, we have to give him that. The left wing has become very ecological. For the last decades, they did talk about ecology, while the right didn't talk about it, but they didn't really believe what they said. It was mostly about, yeah, we need to save plastic bags. That was not radical. Now, ecology has become something radical in the left wing thought, and the Communist Party is getting ecological. The old people are still divided. For the youth, it's clearer, and ecology has become an emergency. So it's the case in every city in France, in most cities in France, where they analyze the situation as being a situation where there are several emergencies that they have to focus on, and that the right has never managed to answer these questions.
Okay, and so finally, there's also the coexistence of the Communist Party and communist voters in Le Havre, and so voters that vote for Edouard Philippe, for example. So do you think that this creates a lot of tension and conflict in the city in itself?
So we need a tension between those
different voters and those, so the communist ones who manifest every Thursday, for example, and they vehemently show what they want, and it does create maybe conflict in the city. Do you feel that voters that don't vote communist are, feeling resentment towards the communist voters, for example, that manifest?
Well, first, The communists are, we don't present the elections as being communist. As a matter of fact, only 40% of the list is inside political party, and only 6 or 7 members are part of the Communist Party. For the others, so 1/3 of the voters is from the councils we made in November, I think, to elaborate the program, and none of them is in the Communist Party. And 1/3 of them is civil society, so just people we believed were experienced and could represent a certain field of society, so we can ask them. So the list is not a communist list. It's, of course, compatible with the what we call communism municipal. With these ideals, it's compatible with it, but it's not communist.
Which is why in the track they talk about every communist group and not like representing only one, right?
Yeah.
It's about reassembling the communist ideals, maybe?
Yes, definitely. I mean, we try to have a united left wing here against a quite united right wing. You see, historically, the right is quite united, except in some moments, and the left is divided. We tried to start the elections quite early, so in September we started talking about it, and October I think we announced that Lecoq would be our candidate. After some long struggle, we got the Français with us. Ensemble, Génération, it was easier. But yeah, now we have a sort of block. We didn't get the Social Democrats because they wanted more seats. That's the reason. They did not want to share only 40% of the seats and 60% to people they could not control. So for these upper row reasons, they just got out of the tables of negotiation. And then there's a right who is quite united. And yeah, definitely the antagonism between the two, so we're really seeing class struggle applied in real life, where there is one that talks for the working class and the other that is not at ease with the subject, because the right wing is not at ease talking about class struggle, it's not their subject. So we don't even speak the same language. One wants to have a big vitrine, they want to show Le Havre to the tourists, to Paris, to have big museums, and the other ones want the periphery, the suburbs, to be more connected to the center, to have small museums in every neighborhood. We don't even speak the same language. And the antagonism on the national level can really be observed on the local level more than anywhere else, because we have Edouard Philippe in these elections. So link is direct.
So thank you very much for the intervention. So I guess you're going to still be really active until the election week, so it's because you have a lot of things to do, so we'll see you and we'll see the outcome of the election soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.